Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
Hey there, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast, the number one industrial and manufacturing related podcast in the universe. Thank you very much for joining. And it is dedicated to you, the women and men, the industrial and manufacturing companies that get it done. You are bold. You are brave. You dare greatly. Boy, do you dare greatly. Huh? And you innovate. And you're just focused on making my life and everybody's lives around the world better. We thank you and we celebrate you on this particular podcast. Now, we have another great interview, and you're saying to yourself, Scott, you always have great interviews. And I do, because I work in industry and manufacturing. It's with a gentleman by the name of Bjorn Andersson. I just want to say this, and I want to say it now, just to get it off my chest. Mr. Andersson. He's with Hitachi Vantara, and we're going to be talking about data. Let's get it happening. Okay. God, have I been harping on this? It's becoming clearer and clearer each and every day. Take note, take note. First off, you industries, you manufacturers, you've got to be successful. You've got to be able to build back up. You've got to survive. You've got to rebuild, and you've got to prosper. And the individuals that are on this particular podcast are focused on how you survive, how you rebuild, and how you can prosper in the future. That's what they're all about. That's why this podcast is here, and we need you more than ever. And I keep on hopping on, and you got to do it. You got to take action. Take action because you have no time to waste. Collaborate, right? Collaborate. Find the companies. Find the individuals, not just internally, but externally. Find these individuals to collaborate. Get the answers you need. Get the help you need because we are depending on you. It's critical. It's important, and you are that important, most definitely. You need to find the right answers to innovate. You do need to innovate. Innovation has been key, and companies that have already planted the seed of innovation prior to the virus are doing much better than the companies that were a little distracted by deploying innovation. So now is the time to collaborate with companies that innovate. It's technology, it's everything. You need to innovate. And of course, because we live in this world of innovation, because we live in this world of technology, because we live in this world that is changing rapidly, you need to educate. You need to find the solutions and educate yourself on what is best for your business, and you got to do it now with a sense of speed. Those are the components that I hear over and over again when I talk to these leaders and the leaders in manufacturing and industry, that I need to collaborate more, I need to innovate more, I need to educate not just me, but my company to be competitive in the future, and I need to do it now. And so everything that you're going to hear, with the exception of maybe some fun stuff on the Industrial Talk podcast, is going to be wrapped around how you're going to survive, how you're going to rebuild, and how you are going to prosper, and highlight the individuals, these leaders that can make it happen. Now, on to the interview. As I went through that monologue, that quick little monologue, Bjorn and his team at Hitachi Vantara they live the collaboration model. They work with their clients. They collaborate to come up with real solutions that'll help you survive, rebuild, and as well as prosper, right? They're all into the innovation. So Bjorn and his team into the innovation, right? There's no way that you're going to get around it. They live, eat, breathe, and they really work to make it consumable by people like me and others that really need the help. And they're willing to work through education because they're always at the cutting edge of solutions. So they're always willing to help educate. And they want to do it with a sense of speed. They're very good and efficient at what they do. and how they look at businesses and how they just really deploy innovative technology to help you succeed. Now, Bjorn, I'm looking at a stat card, by the way. Bjorn Andersson, that's Andersson. He is the Senior Director, Global IoT Marketing at Hitachi Vantara. And so every time people get on my podcast, I have them fill out a form. It's simple. It's automated. It gives me the chance to really see what they would like to talk about and what we want to definitely cover in their interview. And one of the things that stood out in this particular conversation, and I just didn't know it because I think there's tremendous opportunities out there. He makes this statement: only 30% of plant floor data that is collected is actually used. I mean, there is tremendous opportunity with data out there, and to be able to find or collaborate with companies like Hitachi Vantara and people like Bjorn, you can tap into that type of data all day long and really make a business that has long-term success, prospers in the future, and more importantly, is resilient to, unforeseen challenges. And I'm telling you. Big stuff coming out of Hitachi Vantara. All right, let's get to the interview. Bjorn Andersson, Andersson, Senior Director, Global Industry Solutions Marketing, and he's with Hitachi Vantara. Let's get cracking. Enjoy the interview. Bjorn, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. Absolute honor that you have joined this particular podcast to share your wisdom. And I think we're going to be talking a lot about data, and I like that, and how we can sort of get into that data and unlock solutions. I like that. Before we get going, give us a little background on who you are and why you're such a great professional.
Thank you for that. Thank you for having me here.
Hey, you're locked up in your office at home. I can tell because I've been seeing it, and it's looking good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I cleaned it up a little bit.
So a little background, my friend.
Yeah. So I work for Hitachi Vantara on the IoT side, which for us is very much around data, as you mentioned. So how do you get data in? What do you do with the data, and so on? And my background is much on the technical side. So I have an engineering degree behind me, but I'm looking at sort of applying data analytics now, mostly looking at verticals like manufacturing, transportation, and energy, and how can we, Hitachi, help our customers get more value out of the data in those areas.
It was interesting. I had a conversation with Bill Shimarzo, and we were talking about how do you actually put that data on a balance sheet. Like it's valuable, it means something, it has nuggets of solution in it, and how do you I can price out this pen and I got it. It's data. It's sort of that stuff that but it has tremendous value. It has major value and transformative capabilities for your business, big time.
That's right.
Let me ask you this before we venture on into that. It was like, I think there's with the advent of IoT devices, the ability to really effectively collect data, that's when this whole data journey and digitization just started to explode, and the realization that there's tremendous value in that data. I love it.
That's right. And also what's happening is that, so with IoT, you can add more data almost at zero cost, because the sensors are so cheap nowadays, and so you can add that. So you have lots and lots of data coming in, but to really sort of get value out of it is when you start to combine it with your business systems. So if you have vibration data or other types of data coming off your production line, if you combine that with your ERP system or your CRM system, you can start to sort of make those connections. And that's where you get even more value out of it. And so data, you can reuse data all the time. So it never ends. So you get more and more value out of it.
Yeah, but you have to have that culture, that desire to say, yeah, that data is important, that data is valuable, and then begin to develop that culture within your organization. Because I'm telling you right now, it could be a data tsunami. out on these businesses. There's data out there that can truly transform your business, and it requires somebody like you and others to be able to sort of crack into that and be able to, because that was always my, I don't know, my beef is like, I can collect data, but I'm a human. I can't assess that. How do we approach that there, Bjorn?
Yeah, so that's where interesting things are happening now. So more and more automation of the data. So it comes in, it gets massaged and turned into a form that you can analyze, and then you start to combine the different data also. So, for example, if we take video data, for example, you can have hundreds of cameras watching your production line to see sort of what's happening there. But who's going to watch all that video and check
Nobody.
that? Yeah, so you need to automate it and really look at sort of extracting the metadata, if you will, to see sort of what are the anomalies, and those are the ones you focus on going forward, and then you combine it with other types of data to really understand why that thing happened out there. So.
See, the interesting part, and as I look at your form that you filled out, this one jumped out, and I want to be able to understand why. It's only 30% of plant floor data. 30%, only 30%. And I think it swings quite a bit more south of 30%, is actually used. Like actually used. So that means on average, or in general, 70% is just sort of going by the way of nowhere.
Exactly. And I think the reason for that is to some degree sort of that we still have a human in the loop there to actually look at the data. But then if you do use software to analyze it, there are limitations in the software, and you don't do the connections to other types of data. So you don't really create a pipeline of data turning into insights in a more automatic way. So.
Yeah, but there's some sophisticated thinking out there, right? Don't get me wrong with that data. I mean, if I jumped in there and say, hey, that too is really important, whatever that data is. I mean, I don't have that level of sophistication that would draw actual insights into that number or whatever that data might be. But that's where technology, innovation really shines, because it can, right? It can take that data. You're going to have to sort of pull it all together, but you're able to create innovative solutions to be able to go, I get it, that type of stuff.
That's right, yeah.
See,
by using software, and this is one area where we've been focusing a lot over the last few years. If you look at a data analytics type of project, there are research that has been done that about 80% of the time for a data analyst is actually massaging the data, getting it into the right format that you can actually do an analysis on it. And that part we're trying to automate. So they can spend their time on actually adding the analytics on top of it.
And if you think your job stinks, man, try massaging data 80%. And it's a lot. Yeah, I see the value of automating that in a big way. If I was a data scientist, big time. My goodness, I didn't know that. There's just a lot of room. There's a lot of room for improvement with this data, without a doubt. So if I put my hat on, and I'm now a manufacturer industry, and I'm listening to this conversation, what do I do? Where do I even start, Bjorn? It's huge. It's like, I don't know. Where do I start?
Yeah, and companies aren't at different places on this. We call it the maturity levels in terms of data. So some of them haven't really connected their machines yet, so they don't have the data actually coming in yet. So for some companies, that's the first step. Just make sure you get the data streams flowing, and you start to collect and store the data so you can do something with it later. So that's the first step. And then once you do that, a lot of organizations out there are at that first level. So looking in, more or less in the rear view mirror, sort of what happened, or best case, what's happening just now. And then that's the first level of understanding what's happening in the processes.
But you still need the ability to be able to collect that data, right? So you create number one, you do it. There has to be some way of being able to, okay, now I'm sort of at the same level or timeline as my data. So I'm able to at least see something.
That's right. And in the past, that step has been pretty complex because you have, for example, a manufacturing company can have a huge manufacturing facility. So yes, the distances between different systems that you need to sort of get data from. And you couldn't really use Wi-Fi or something like that. So you have to have wires and get that. But that's changing now. So with things like 5G coming out, it really changes that a whole lot. So it's very, very easy now with those kind of technologies to connect everything together and get those data flows streaming.
I remember I had a project that I was doing for a utility company, and it was a major CapEx, and all I wanted to do was capture data from a transformer. But to do that, and this is a remote area, you know, it's like a substation. So dig a ditch, put the device, run the wire. It wasn't easy. It was expensive, and I could do it on one.
Exactly.
So the 5G, you mentioned it briefly, is transformative too.
It is, yeah. It's really a breakthrough, I think. So not only for the bandwidth and the sort of lower latency, so you can actually use it to control robots and things like that. But you can have so many more devices on it than compared to the older technology.
You know, that's another conversation I got to have is on a 5G conversation, because I get it, but I really don't get it. And I'm sure the listeners are with me. It's like, that's a big deal, but why? You know?
That's right.
Now, and the other thing that was interesting, because now we're connecting our assets and we're pulling in data, and now we're starting to collect it. It's the cloud. That, you know, because I'll go back to my transformer analogy. I had limitations with, you know, storage. I just couldn't store it all. And it was coming in. It was coming in fast. And that's where the cloud has a great advantage in this particular scenario.
Oh yeah. Both from a storage standpoint, but also from the sort of processing standpoint. And the flexibility to go up and down with sort of how much resources you use. That really changes a lot.
Yeah, and it was weird, because I remember when the cloud was a big deal, but then all of a sudden everything is in the cloud, and there's no latency. It's like right now. And then to your point, if I'm collecting data, and I'm collecting that data to be more proactive in my decision-making capabilities, it's right in line. It's like, boom, I see it.
That's right. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
What we're seeing now with companies also, so I mentioned that we're sort of, they're looking in the rear view mirror to sort of what happened. But a lot of the companies now are starting to look forward, so predicting what's going to happen. Yeah. And then the step beyond that is to be prescriptive. What can I do today for something to happen down the road? So
that's a game changer. But it's one of those things, Bjorn, where it's overwhelming to me. I mean, you and the rest of the Hitachi Vantara team, you live and breathe this stuff. You see it. You've had this conversation. You might be grabbing a beer and you go, you know what else we can do? We can do this, that, and the other thing. Me as a business owner, I'm still trying to just survive in this next normal, right? And I'm just trying to, in that survival mode, what can I do today that will impact me in the future, and having that future view? Is there something, how would you approach me in that particular situation where I'm just trying to survive?
Yeah, so often when we engage with a new customer, we sit down and have this kind of discussion, so sort of what's important for you for your business, and trying to identify sort of what's the best bang for the buck, more or less. What's the easy win we can do as a first project together? And then we go and do that. Sometimes we create a roadmap with multiple of these steps to go through to get to the end result. But you need to get some wins under your belt in the beginning.
You see, and I find that that's real important, especially when, me as a business owner, I go out to, Google, and I have conversations with a bunch of people. And if I had a nickel every time somebody says IoT, IIoT, AI, edge computing, cloud, data lakes, I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be sipping Mai Tais on a beach because it's out there. So for me, I'm looking for less friction, simplicity, and I like that. Looking for those wins.
Yeah,
I can put some cash in my pocket or create some efficiencies or whatever and feel and prove it out. That is a great approach.
That's
I like
right,
that.
yeah.
And it's not overwhelming, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then from a technology standpoint, we've created this thing we call Lumada, which is it started as an IoT platform, but there's so much more today. And it really goes back to what I said earlier, that you need to correlate data across. So at the core, Lumada is all about data and getting insights from data. But it helps you connect to the different devices and almost any type of device out there. And then it has this automating the data pipeline, the analytics and so on as part of it also. And then connecting to what are you actually trying to do. And this is where sort of the broader Hitachi experience comes in. We are one of the largest manufacturers also. So we've done many of these. We've experienced many of these challenges ourselves. And we package that into Lumada to help our customers.
Yeah, that's right. Every time I have that conversation with somebody from Hitachi, and I would always say, I didn't know Hitachi was doing that stuff. And I mean, you guys are. It's like, it's impressive. And I like how you linked it together because you're in manufacturing, you're doing some big stuff, and you have those same challenges. You can go into a conference room with another company and say, yeah, let me tell you why we've done it this way at this particular location. It just gives you pretty major street cred when it comes to this stuff. And exactly. Lumada, what does Lumada stand for or mean? What does it mean?
Oh, yeah. So I actually was part of the naming committee for that. So I know the reasoning behind it. But it's really, it came from illuminating data and then simplifying that into Lumada. So.
See, and I like that because one of the challenges I had in a past life is being able to pull in data from other legacy systems, not just legacy systems, some, in-house developed systems that they just love for whatever reason, and being able to pull that data in together to create a real clear picture. And are you saying Lumada allows that to take place?
Exactly. And it's also the other thing we made sure we built into Lumada is that it's flexible and modular, because we deliver this to customers that already have certain systems there. So we need to connect to those systems, and it's not a rip and replace. We're just enhancing what they already have.
Yeah, I'm sure you've never been to a customer who just says, you know what? We just opened our door yesterday. We have no systems in place, but we're going to be a manufacturer, so it's a clean slate. No.
Never happens.
You better figure it out. And that's where the I love the meaning behind Lumada, because that is truly the case, because you've got systems out there that are just pumping data, but nobody's collecting it. Now, this is all great. I'm all bought in. I see the necessity of being able to get those victories, get those wins, the small ones, low-hanging fruit, but it's not always, lollipops and pink elephants. There are challenges. What are the challenges that you have to face?
So it sort of goes back to some of the sort of basic things. So make sure you can actually connect to all the systems out there. And then once you get the data streaming in, make sure you can actually store all of that data. So you need to have those kind of systems sort of built out. And to make that happen, one of the roadblocks we run into is, so for these kind of solutions, it's sort of an IT side and an OT side to it. Mm-hmm. So we talk to different people, and a key to success is really to get them together as one team to work together. So that's one of the sort of success factors out there.
It is a big deal, and that spirit of collaboration is needed, especially today. I mean, I believe wholeheartedly that the answer exists out there. You might not have it, but somebody does. and you got to just sort of work in a collaborative type of way. Now, so I get this data. I've worked through the OT, IT challenges. I'm connected. We've done it. We've scrubbed it. We've done everything we can, automated, and victories. Now, there's the visual aspect. I need KPIs, key performance indicators. I'm not just collecting it because I want to collect data. There's got to be tactics behind the data, and that's where you work with the team at whatever company to determine that.
Yeah, and actually that's usually sort of the first discussion we have with them. So what are your KPIs? What's really valuable for your business? So we figure that one out first, and then we sort of work backwards to what technology should we use here, what products should we use here, and what services do we add to the whole equation to make it work. So we start with the value they want.
See, that's great. And I would imagine you push back on some of it. And you could probably say, well, really, do you need that data? Or would this one be different? Or what if I hear what you want to try to display, I see the value, but what if we pull this piece of data in, and now it's even, instead of silver, now it's gold or platinum level data. So you go through that whole thing.
Yeah, making those connections can be so valuable, and sometimes you just don't think about it. It's so easy. So going back to my example about the video camera, that's a very simple and often cheap way to add more context to your data. So you can look at even sort of worker safety analysis from there, not just sort of recording when accidents happen, but look at sort of how people are actually working with machines. So you can sort of help them enhance their policies, their training, and so on. But also warning, if you enter an area where you shouldn't be, you can warn people. So.
And warn other, absolutely. And so with that said, Bjorn, where do you see it going? I mean, we're still, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're still sort of at the beginning of all this. I think that there's a lot of great companies, a lot of great people thinking through the value of all this data, this IoT, how you analyze it. Where do you see it going? Because I would love that prescriptive capability, saying, hey, right over here, man, something's happening. I see it. Where do you see it going?
So I think like you said, we're in the early stages of this journey to get to that end goal. And some companies are further along than others. So for Hitachi, we often sort of function as a guide for these companies. So how do they take the next step on this journey? And in the end, sort of that intelligent assistant type of area where you have the AI systems and so on, really acting as an assistant to the humans, and really removing all of those sort of tedious, repetitive tasks and things where data is just coming too fast for human to really react to it. So it's sort of distilling it down to something we can do something with, and becoming more sort of an intelligent advisor type of system.
What is your position? Because you know as well as I do that individuals are out there, and this future is frightening. And it's frightening not because it doesn't make sense. It's possibly taken my job. How do you address something like that?
So it might take some tasks away, but I don't think it actually will take jobs away. The job will change and sort of move to a higher level. So take out those repetitive tasks and so on, so you can focus more of your mind power on the more value add part of your job. And so I think it will change in those kind of ways instead of just removing jobs. So certain tasks will be automated. But I think most jobs will move up a level in terms of being more valuable that way.
All right, listeners, you heard it from the man. You're not going to lose your job. You're just going to have a better job.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, it is.
This has happened.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. This has happened many times in the past over the history. You get a new tool that really makes it much easier to do your job. That will happen again.
You're spot on. I mean, it history backs that up, and I'm telling you, you don't want to do those mundane tasks. You want technology to handle those tasks and elevate your thinking, and that to me is spot on, and that's exactly what I said. I was just leading you. I knew that, Bjorn.
No
All right,
problem.
hey, we're gonna have to wrap it up now. Are you active out there on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you got an amazing stat card. I like it. I'm both insecure and dazzled at the same time because you're saying. So reach out to Bjorn Andersson. That's 2S. That's ANDERSSON. Hitachi Vantara is the company, and he's got a nice flowing head of hair and a beard, and he's a handsome gent. You can't miss
Used
him.
to have it.
Oh, look who's talking. Yeah, you have. Oh, that's going falling on deaf ears. If I didn't have these headphones on, it'd fall. And it's like, yeah, right. Bald. You're not. All right. Bjorn, thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. It was an absolute honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side because we are. And we're going to get all the contact information that Bjorn has you over. Also with Lumada. Also with Hitachi Vantara. I think that is just an incredible value proposition that they bring to the table. So do not go away. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, real quick. Thank you, Bjorn. Thank you, Bjorn Andersson, for being on the Industrial Talk podcast and definitely sharing your wisdom into, accessing the power of data. And all you listeners out there, all of his contact information will be at industrialtalk.com. Find Bjorn Andersson. You'll see his email address, his link to his LinkedIn stat card out there, and everything in between. Reach out to him. He knows exactly what he's doing. I just love that approach. I love what they're doing at Hitachi Vantara. Again, I want to keep harping on it. We depend on you. Not just the industry depends on you. You have to survive, rebuild, and prosper. That's why Bjorn is here. That's why Hitachi's here. That's why I'm here. That's why other companies that we highlight on this particular podcast are here. So collaborate. Find the answers. Collaborate. Innovate. Do not be frightened of innovation because you're going to be collaborating with people who have answers to innovation. And you're going to have to educate because this is happening fast. We all have never really been through any of this particular challenge. So those are the things, and you got to do it now. Do it with speed. Again, when we start closing, you are bold. You are brave. You dare greatly. You're changing the world. Thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. We will be right back with another interview.